All right, Shalom, call Yahawah, Shalom to the elect. Now, I want to speak on this topic. I had some videos queued up. I was just thinking about it, and a few things happened these past days that let me get a little more clarity on what I want to speak on as well. Just for a little exhortation to Aki and Aqua that may be listening. Having a peace of mind is real valuable. And you should always try to maintain that. Ask that, let that be one of the things you ask for when you're praying. Because the times that we in right now, the stuff that we're coming into, a lot of people really bugged out. Primarily our people. They be bugged out, mind be gone. Bunch of illnesses. People having suicidal thoughts. Depression. All that stuff. So I'm just going to this and I'm pulling a few precepts that actually speak on why this actually be happening too.
Because I was stressed out, or chips and donuts, eating weight was just I didn't like how.
Welcome back, everyone. So millions of Americans are currently living with Alzheimer's or other forms of dementia. Research shows older Black adults are twice as likely to develop Alzheimer's than white adults, but they only make up about 10% of clinical trial participants. So joining me now to unpack this, Dr. Crystal Glover from the Rush Alzheimer's Disease Center in Chicago. Thank you for talking about this very, very important topic. I know I've had loved ones that have developed this disease, and it is horrible. So there are still so many questions about Alzheimer's disease and the causes. I thought it was interesting that less than 1% of the time it is caused by a specific genetic change that guarantees a person will develop this disease. So that's why it's so important. The more we know, the better chance we have in preventing it.
Indeed. Thank you for having me today, Melanie, especially on the first day of Black.
See, before I just play on it anymore, I guarantee, I ain't even watched this yet, I just queued it up just so I can speak on it later. I guarantee Dale Mitchell obeying the Most High help prevent this. So let this play
Black History Month. Very nice to be here.
And then, I know I keep pausing it, so Salaki just wanted to speak on this because I was talking to an individual recently. I be making my runs and doing my stuff. And we was just discussing how people look at biblical laws or whatever as being like control tools or whatever. And it's not about control, it's about order. When things are in order, stuff moves right. When stuff out of order, shit is chaotic. And that's why a lot of stuff is chaotic right now. A lot of people bugged out because of the chaos.
Talk about, some of the misconceptions with Alzheimer's disease. I was listening to a podcast recently, and they talked about, as people age, you feel like I'm just going to develop dementia or I'm just going to get Alzheimer's. That does not have to be the case.
That is right. So the two biggest predictors or risk factors of Alzheimer's disease is simply getting older, so being alive and aging, as well as genetic predisposition. However, it doesn't have to be that way. Things that we do in our midlife especially are very key to our aging brains. So the big three things that I really talk about in my research that we can do, say in midlife, to kind of stave off the risk of Alzheimer's is the 3 acts. Taking part in cognitive activities, so think mentally stimulating items, say reading, going to museums, any puzzles, social activities, so calling your girlfriends up or going out for brunch or speaking with them about any issues, and then as well as physical activity. So it doesn't have to be hard, sweat pumping exercise. It could be, say, another walk around Target or Walmart or simply your neighborhood. So really those 3 activities in midlife can really help you stave off in later age.
Can't succumb to this disease. We can do something about it. Let's talk about these statistics, though, that we just mentioned. Do we have a clear understanding as to why Black adults are more likely to develop Alzheimer's disease than other ethnicities?
So one of the big issues of why we're here is to speak about participation in research, including the AHEAD study, and you can visit aheadstudy.org for more information, is that we don't have a lot of participation among members of Black and African American communities. That means all the drugs or therapeutics that are on the market now, any educational materials or ways that we can prevent or delay memory loss, are just not central to the lived experiences of many Blacks and African Americans. So when persons take part in research, we can understand how does a drug work for them. We can center their brains and their lives up front. We can respect it and address it.
Let's talk about the AHEAD study specifically, the one that you are working on. How much time does a person have to give? What will their experience be like to really encourage this diversity in these clinical trials?
So one of the big things about AHEAD that makes it unique around Alzheimer's clinical trials is that it is the first to enroll people as young as 55 years of age. So typically we see the average enrollment starting at 65, but by the time you start experiencing symptoms of Alzheimer's, say in your 70s, and you're having that in your lived life, the brain changes already began 20 years before. So having folks enroll, taking part in around 3 to 4 years, that is key.
And how much time will a person have to devote to this trial?
Typically about 3 to 4 years. That's the average life of this trial.
Right, and I guess, so in a week you would give an hour, or just how much, time weekly would you have to commit?
Yes, I don't think it is weekly. It is not weekly. It is simply annual visits.
Okay, all right. So it's not a huge commitment, but it could have a huge impact on the research. Thank you so much for talking with us. Individuals aged 55 to 80, as Dr. Cooper mentioned, including Spanish-speaking adults, can join the study by participating at work.
And see, I was watching one of the elders' videos too, and they was talking about how Judah and Ephraim, and them linking up, Judah, Benjamin, Levi, and all the other tribes as well. You see that going on now. A lot of Puerto Ricans hanging with so-called black people, a lot of Colombians or whatever. And they always been mixed up anyway. Some darker than others, some lighter than others. You see, she mentioned them. I'm going to play one more time.
Spanish-speaking adults can join.
Spanish-speaking adults. The reason why, because they fall up on these curses too. It's in the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 28. I ain't going to read the blessings of obedience. I'm going to jump down to where I was at. Give me 1 minute. Alright, I'm sorry, verse 25 in the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 28. It says, the Lord shall cause thee to be smitten before thine enemies. Who that happened to on this earth? Is smitten before the enemies. It says, thou shalt go out one way against them and flee 7 ways before them. You look up historical accounts, whether it be from the slave trade or different slavery revolts, different historical accounts of Seminole tribes, the Cherokee, the Choctaw, all these different tribes, when they actually would go to war and rebel against these different nations, they'll go out one way and flee 7 ways before. And the ones that end up caught up, they end up having to make a treaty with Esau, and Esau just break the treaty any fucking way and do what they want to do. It says, it shall be removed into all the kingdoms of the earth. Who is in all the kingdoms of the earth right now, still to this day? It says, and thy carcass shall be meat unto all fowls of the air, and unto beasts of the earth, and no man shall free them away. The Lord will smite thee with the botch of Egypt, and with the emeralds, and with the scab, and with the itch, where thou canst not be healed. The Lord shall smite thee with madness, which Alzheimer's is a form of madness, and blindness and astonishment of heart. It says, thou shalt grope at noonday, as a blind gropeth in darkness. Thou shalt not prosper in thy ways. Thou shalt be only oppressed and spoiled evermore. Now who been getting oppressed the most and spoiled evermore? It says, no man shall save thee. It says, thou shalt betroth a wife, and another man shall lie with her. And this goes on. Hey, I just talked to somebody personally, and this just happened. This goes on real heavy in our community. Niggas glorify that. Oh yeah, I'm finna go fuck this nigga bitch. For what? There's plenty of other women you can get that ain't even got no dude. Would you rather go fuck this nigga chick though? But that's our people though. It says, thou shalt build a house, and thou shalt not dwell therein. Thou shalt plant a vineyard, and shalt not gather the grapes thereof. Thine ox shall be slain before thine eyes, and thou shalt not eat thereof. Thine ass shall be violently taken away from before thy face, and shall not be restored to thee. Thy sheep shall be given unto thine enemies, and thou shalt have none to rescue them. Thy sons and thy daughters shall be given unto another people. Now who this happened to? Let's talk about slavery right here. Thy sons and daughters shall be given to another people. It says, and thine eyes shall look and fail with longing for them all the day long. There shall be no might in thine hand. The fruit of thy land and all the laborers shall the nation which thou knowest not eat up. And we know a little bit of history of these other nations, but we don't know them like that. But thanks to, our forefathers, our ancestors who are building certain stuff or certain structures, railroad systems, highway systems, designing different stuff, certain inventions, these other nations, they eat up from that still to this day. That's why when you read the book of Revelation, they talk about the nations mourning once they see that this place through from the judgment they get, because they ain't gonna be able to eat up no more. That's how they eat. China eat off the U.S. Russia eat off the U.S. as well, even though they got sanctions going on, but that's another topic with that war stuff. Europe eat off the U.S. Great Britain eat off the U.S. All these different areas. Japan, South Korea, they eat up. It says, and thou shalt be only oppressed and crushed away always, so that thou shalt be mad for the sight of thine eyes which thou shalt see. The Lord shall smite thee in the knees and in the legs with the sore box that cannot be healed. A lot of people have like gout or muscle injuries, spinal injuries, all that different stuff. Knees and the legs, mainly our people. This is from the sole of thy foot to the top of the head of thy head. The Lord shall bring thee and thy king which thou shalt set over thee into a nation which neither thou nor thy fathers have known, and there shalt thou serve other gods, wood and stone, which that still goes on to this day. People love serving other deities, but you try to tell them about the ways of the Most High, though they look at you like you're crazy or something, say you weird or whatever other little nonsense they say. It says, thou shalt become an astonishment, a proverb, and a byword. What byword do they call us all the time? Niggas, spics, wetbacks, all that. And just recently they changed the name for the one football team, Redskins. That was a byword. It says, among all nations, whether the Lord shall lead thee. Let me see if I found someone. I ain't gonna read the rest of this because it's actually a long chapter and I know people attention span is short. But yeah, the answer's actually in here though, if you read it. If you don't read it, or if don't nobody point it out to you, you're not gonna know. You're just gonna think it's just a book that the so-called white man orchestrated. But they didn't orchestrate this. Just because they have publishing companies, you best believe they go have somebody, like I was watching the book of Eli, you best believe they have somebody that's well versed in the scriptures and spiritually inclined among them when they be publishing and doing this stuff. Now they try to print new translations and change the words up, but it ain't no difference. Just as well as you type in, let's see, we'll go to it real quick. What version can I go in? I'm in the KJV, King James Version. Got a new international version, right? Now, a few of the words just changed up because language changed over time. We're read back at verse 25 in the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 28. It says, the Lord will cause you to be defeated before your enemies. Same thing I just read, just different wording. So you will come at them from one direction or flee from them in seven. Same thing. Plenty of times our people revolted, had a revolution, tried to go fight Esau. Go at them in one direction, flee in seven. So they, if you don't really do your homework or research, actually search out these words and read these definitions, study the Latin, the Greek, Hebrew, different versions of English, because it ain't just one version of English. Then of course it's going to seem like it's conflicting or it don't make sense because you're not applying one of the basic things that we were taught in school. English. Using dictionaries. Now, let me see, I'm going to go to this other video.
cut out carbs, sugar. It was just not sustainable. Boom,
Dr. Marty, which one is better for my dog, kibble or raw beef?
This is a bag of premium organic dog.
Now, before I end this off, I'm gonna let this video play up, go to these other presets and close this down. When you really trying to carry yourself in a righteous manner, do right, not fuck nobody over, scamming and finessing,